Kings and Warriors tonight. Nice enough to join us with more on that. Outstanding Warrior writer, NBA writer, covers the Kings as well for The Athletic, Anthony Slater. Slates, first things first, let me just say, I don't know how you or anybody affiliated with the Warriors did your jobs last night. Basically the service for Dejan Milojevic was unlike anything I've ever seen. I know watching that on TV, I didn't feel like watching basketball after that until it got going. Can you describe what it was like just to be there for that incredible heart-wrenching ceremony?
Yeah, it was kind of, subdued, especially right when you got to the arena. Even the pregame warm-ups. I mean, y'all know it's typically a happy, energetic vibe, even in the arena pregame, especially when players are working out. And you could just tell, I just don't think the organization really knew how to act, because you needed to get ready to do your job, but you didn't want to just be, giggling, laughing, and all that. And it's just, it kind of sat over everything. But, even talking to people prior to the game, there was an expectation that, hey, pregame is going to be emotional. Seeing his family was, his wife and two kids were sitting in the GM seats, which are a couple rows behind the Warriors bench. That was emotional when they went over and put all their jerseys that had been custom made on Dejan's normal seat. That was right in front of his wife and kids, and his wife was up there kind of crying through it all. It was strange, and it made the heart wrenching, like you said. And then, I thought the first 8 minutes of the game probably were lower energy. I was wondering if they were going to come out with a real, emotional burst, but now the arena felt a little bit quiet, but I felt like by second quarter and beyond, it felt normal. And even talking to people, they kind of expect that. Once the game gets going, you start sweating. You got to win a basketball game, and they actually did. So.
Anthony. Let me turn on my microphone here. Anthony Slater joining us. Anthony, what did you take away from the actual basketball that was being played last night? I'm just looking at, Steve Kerr's rotations. Jonathan Kuminga still coming off the bench, but played 29 minutes. Kevon Looney barely played 10 minutes. What do you think of where the Warriors are at in terms of rotation right now?
Well, the two things to take away from last night are Kuminga's stat line. 11 of 11 shooting. That's 4 straight 20-point games for him. That's a career-long streak. I think it's 22 straight double-digit games, maybe 21, which is a career-long streak. This is the best basketball he's ever played at a time where they're kind of deciding about his future, right? I mean, the trade deadline's coming up. There's kind of a him or Wiggins situation potentially brewing here. He's just played better than Andrew Wiggins. So just that is just takeaway number one. It was a highlight game in what's been really kind of a signature stretch of his career. And then the other notable, player last night is Draymond Green. That was his second game back. His first game back was right before this tragedy happened, 9-day break, and this is his second game back. So he's only playing 23 minutes, but he's mostly playing those 23 minutes at center, separated from Kevon Looney. I think when his minute totals get up there, and this is a fuller, readier Warriors team, I think he's got to play center, pretty much primarily. He was really good last night. They had a lot of people post-game talking about how good he was in the pick and roll against DeJounte Murray and how much they've been missing that. When he was out, they were the 29th ranked defense in the league. Overall in the season, they're still in the bottom 10. That's not how they win historically. And he has come back wanting to solve that, and I think he's done that in his 2 games. He's looked like, the defensive player of old that we know. We'll see how long that lasts. If he can stay out of the league's crosshairs is always a question mark. But he's looked good and he's been focused, and they kind of put an unofficial rule on him, stay away from the referees. And he's done that through 2 games, but it's only been 2 games.
Anthony Slater with us, and you mentioned the trade deadline, and I know this time of year with all the speculation, some of the trade talk, it's very squirrely, but I'm just going to ask you anyway. Do you think there's any chance of a Wiggins and Mike Brown reunion here in Sacramento?
Wow. Sure. I think I will say this. I think Wiggins is available.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a tricky deal to get done. I think the type of package that the Kings seem to be dangling out there, reporting seems to indicate, especially in the Siakam deal, is not necessarily something that would appeal to the Warriors. But, look, the Warriors were in a 4-team deal at the last deadline where James Wiseman went to Detroit, Gary Payton went from Portland to them. They got second-round picks from Atlanta where Sadiq Bey was going, and they shipped that to Portland. People can get creative in the league. So I mean, theoretically, sure, I could see something coming out in the wash where Wiggins lands with the Kings, because I do think he's a name that'll be on the market. It's a sell low moment, which means I guess it's a potential buy high opportunity. I don't know if I said that correctly, but
I gotcha.
He's on year one of a 4-year extension that's relatively expensive. It seemed to be team friendly when he signed it, but he's having the worst offensive year of his career. Really, he's just having the worst season of his career at the age of 28, which is very rare. It's a risk, but the upside is what you saw in the 2022 playoffs. He was like Kawhi Leonard for 2 months, basically, right? I mean, hitting 40% of his threes, guarding Luka, guarding Jason Tatum on the highest level, and doing it very well. So there's upside.
Anthony Slater, Athletic, joining us. Anthony, when you look at the Kings, here they are 24-18, but the vibe just feels different than a year ago. Knowing Monty, knowing the situation, do you expect Sacramento to be active over these next 2 weeks when it comes to a trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, it's active in, at least exploring the options. They went pretty down the road, in the Toronto situation with Siakam, which, by the end of that, it's been made clear, Siakam wanted basically kind of a guarantee that a max deal, a max offer was coming, and it seems like Indiana was willing to give that, so that's why he ended up going there. But, I mean, I think that shows that the Kings are searching. Monty McNair is searching for potentially some answers here, but I do think it's not as desperate as maybe the outside world seems to think it is. They're not just going to throw Keegan Murray in a trade because they want to get 5 wins better this year, or get to the West Finals or something this year. They obviously want to do that, but in being around the Kings and talking to pretty much everyone involved with the Kings, they feel like there's a chance to have some sustained success here. That is still a goal, and part of that is Fox as your lead guard, Sabonis as your center, and Keegan Murray as your franchise wing. That kind of, he can upsize, he can downsize. I think Keegan Murray's presence allows you to be versatile in who you go after. If it's a Zach LaVine, he can play the 2, Keegan Murray can play the 4. But if it was a Siakam, you're going to be making Murray basically a 2-3. But I think there's a belief he can be that. But there's also no desire to trade him. And to me, if you were going to go big game hunting at the trade deadline, he'd probably he could get you a lot, but I just don't feel an appetite for them to do that. So depends on how big we're talking. I just don't think there's going to be that big a name that moves. I think Siakam was probably the biggest name. It seems like the big stuff's already been done.
Yeah, Anthony, to that point, your cohort Sam Amick was on the station today, and he said that last night the names he was hearing linked to the Kings were Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce ONeal. How do you see either or maybe both of them potentially fitting into where the Kings are and what they need right now?
Yeah, see, that's more of that, around the margins. Mm-hmm. Get a guy in that can play 25 minutes, but also on certain nights can play 10 minutes. If Kevin Huerter's got it going or whatever, but they're playoff level wing defenders who can hit a 3. It's clearly what Mike Brown's been craving at times over really both of his seasons with the Kings. And it won't cost you that much. That's the big thing, right? I don't know that they're ready for the big, throw everything out the door swing, because they feel like they need to chase down a title this year. Obviously, they would love to win the championship this year, but I do feel like the long term matters, and part of that might be protecting your asset base, and yet still trying to improve the team. And that's a Royce ONeal, a Dorian Finney-Smith is an attempt at doing that.
All right, Anthony Slater joining us. Slate's my last question as you get ready for tonight's game between the Warriors and Kings. When these two teams faced off earlier in the season, you felt the rivalry. You felt the hatred. The hype was there. I'm not feeling it as much. Why do you think that is? And it seems to me like both teams could just use a win. It's not about sending a message. It's about, what? We need to just win this game no matter who it is.
Yeah, because both teams are not in good spot right now, right? The Kings just had that 4-game losing streak where the late game collapses, or has clearly left a bitter taste in their mouth. Fox is not playing that well, and they're just they got a 7-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You going on much of that?
I'm going on 5 of them. The last 5 I got. Yep.
Ooh, yeah. That's hefty. And that can be dangerous at a time where you're trying to stay in the sixth spot or above. So anyway, as you mentioned, yeah, like Kings just need to win. They need to feel good about themselves. And I could multiply that by about 5 to talk about the Warriors situation. Like, they're 19-22. They've got huge decisions to make before the trade deadline. They're in a much more existential moment for them. Like we were just talking about the Kings. Yeah, they want to get better this season, but they have this young group that's growing together. Their core guys are either prime or pre-prime. That's not what the Warriors are dealing with. So they're just trying to figure themselves out, survive, get into the play-in. Right now they're out of the entire play-in, and they probably need to win more than the Kings even do. So, I think there's less focus for that reason on each other and more focus on themselves. And then also, look, Dejan, the situation with Dejan has clearly occupied the Warriors' minds for more than a week. And the type of connections on the Kings coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Mike Brown worked with Dejan. Luke Love, Leandro Barbosa knows him well, and not only knows Dejan, but knows the people that are hurting because of what happened with Dejan. So it's tough to. I know the NBA is hyping up rivalry week, but it does not feel like game 8 of the first round series from last year. Just like you said, both teams kind of need a win tonight.
By the way, Slates, and we appreciate your time very much. The part of the road trip that Kyle is really looking forward to the most is Super Bowl Sunday in Oklahoma City. I know he can't wait to do a game.
What's your boy Adam Silver doing, man? We got a game in OKC Super Bowl Sunday. Like, what is he doing? Like, the NBA should really sit out that day.
Hey, you're talking to somebody who lived in Oklahoma City for 4 years, loves Oklahoma City, by the way. Made a few trips back this year to write a few stories about the Thunder. They're very good, by the way. It's not only a highlight game, but that would be a big win.
That's true.
The Kings have played well against the Thunder this season. They've probably given the Thunder more trouble than anybody. And my in-laws are out there. If you want to hook up, if you want some Super Bowl, like a Super Bowl spread, I think you got to go about 10 minutes out of downtown. But
I might do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I might do that, man. Where they at? Edmond? I'm sure they're in the rich area, knowing how you roll, man. They in the expensive area.
Right. Yeah, near Edmond. We'll just say that.
I knew it.
Thank you, Anthony. Slates. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, fellas.
All right. From The Athletic, the one and only Anthony Slater. Coming up,